Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivatemi. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Kaya kamang vaca kamang mano kamang sabapapang Buddhang dhammang sanghang ahosi. Good morning, greetings everyone. So that verse that I just said, Kaya kamang vaca kamang mano kamang sabapapang Buddhang dhammang sanghang ahosi, translate that as all evil acts which were done through body, speech, and mind, may the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha nullify it. Typically the word would be ahosi kam, but this line is said after our chanting is completed, both morning and night. Evening. So, what did the Buddha say about kam or kamma? The Sanskrit word is karma. In Lao and Thai, we shorten it to gam. And so, can karma or kamma be destroyed? And if all actions through body, speech, and mind make kam, how is it possible to nullify it? So, my name is Venerable Samanera of Wat Lao Butawat of Rhode Island. The word Samanera means novice, a novice monk who takes on 10 precepts. Pali is the language that was closely spoken by the Buddha. And it did not have its own writing system. But when Sanskrit came in with its writing system, it was able to give a writing system. And the word is close to Pali. So again, Sanskrit word for we know is karma, and the Pali word is kamma. And the Thai and Lao people would say kam. So, as a novice, the name Samanera may be a little too long for some people. So, the Lao and Thai again shorten it. And some people call me Nen. Or they may just call me Chua. My Bhikkhu name, which means to be higher ordained, Bhikkhu is a higher ordained monk, fully ordained, has been chosen for me, and the name is Nekama. When I first thought that name, I thought that it meant no karma. So this whole video actually came because one of our practitioners of meditation had asked me about it. So this is to address Me'ok M. Lu about my Bhikkhu name, which has been chosen for me, which I have to earn in about 3 to 4 more years. So I am reading up on our Vinaya text books. Let's see if I can grab it. You can see what I'm kind of reading. This is part 2. I'm reading this right now. And when I was reading through this textbook, the Aṅguttara Nikaya by Bhikkhu Bodhi in English, there was a chapter on karma. And in that chapter, the Buddha addressed the types of karma. And so he also mentioned that it was very difficult for karma to be understood, but he gave some little bits of information for us to understand it. So I guess some people may be wondering why a novice is presenting Dharma for people. And it's because our abbot has many obligations and was asked several times, and due to his many obligations, he's unable to commit to presenting. So the Dharma is for the benefit of all devas, devotees, and all of mankind. So what does a nekama mean if it doesn't mean no karma? I originally thought it meant ne kamma, but when I re-looked at the definition, and in the dictionary it says nek kamma. So it's definitely pronounced differently. It means renunciation, to give up the world. But it actually does have something to do with kamma, or gam, which means action, resultant. The word nekama came to mind in the Book of Threes, titled Kamma. There were many suttas, actually. There were about 3 suttas, all of them very, very similar. And I took strong interest in this chapter because I wanted to know a little bit more. But of course, he did say that karma was very difficult. The Buddha said that karma was so difficult to understand that it would take lifetimes to even come close to understanding it. And in your current lifetime, you would die before you would even understood it. So he gave very little information on it. And what he did give, though, was the most important ones. So, one, he did say that karma was produced, is actually resultant from 3 sources, which is through body, speech, and mind. So our actions, what we say, and what is cognized. So in this chapter, the first one that caught my attention is titled as In Detail. So karma in detail. It says, Bhikkhus, there are 4 types of karma proclaimed by me after I realized them for myself with direct knowledge. And what for? And he explains the 4 as dark kamma, which results in dark results. Bright kamma, which results in bright results. Dark and bright kamma, which give off dark and bright results. And no kamma, there is kamma that is neither dark nor bright, with neither dark nor bright result. And so he explains a little bit and gives some examples, but I think we can just go with some of the ones that we can easily understand, which are the first 2. And we'll see that the third one is actually the most common type of karma that's done. But then the 4th one's actually quite different. It takes a lot to understand it, so I had to read further to understand. So the first one, we can say dark karma, is when we do unskillful things, such as killing, stealing, cheating, lying, indulging in intoxicants, because we get rewarded negatively. This reward of karma is soon after it's done, or in this lifetime, soon after it, in our afterlife, or maybe after culmination of lifetimes, it may come up. So that would be an example of bad karma. So when something was done negatively, we'd like to see it happen instantaneously so we can learn, but sometimes it takes time for karma to result. Then there's bright karma, with bright results. That one's pretty straightforward as well, where if we do good things, good deeds, such as having generosity, loving kindness, and helping of others, giving our time, and this is done for the welfare of another being, another person, another being, that they may be well and see another day. This will result in good karma, give us a better place. So the third type of karma, where it's mixed, where it's this bright and dark karma, this one is what I've been looking at is pretty typical. It seems to be very common, where, let's give examples, where one is a farmer or a butcher. We feed and provide for many, however, it comes to the expense of other beings. We even look at some other types of professions or types of actions. So if you look at the profession of even a doctor, there's both good and bad from that. We expect more good from it, but there can be bad. For example, doctors try to save lives, but through HIPAA or privacy acts, a doctor may be forced to withhold information or just straight out lie to somebody who's asking, who's not in the know. Or an example that I also had is, let's say you are the mayor or governor of a city, town, state, and the people's livelihood is threatened by an increase or invading force of coyotes. So one would mandate the legal extermination of these coyotes. I believe it happened in New York, Long Island, and when the coyotes were killed off, then deer population boomed. And with the deer population booming, then they had to have another mandate to legally kill off deer because they're spreading too quickly. Their natural predator, the coyotes, were eliminated. So there's good and bad results coming from such an act. But the fourth type of karma, which seems to be one of the more difficult ones to understand, the Buddha explains it as karma that is volition to eliminate or abandon the three other types of karma. So there's thought, they're wanting to abandon the other types of karma, which were good or bad or mixed. It's very interesting. So when I first read this, my mind pretty much got fried. I didn't understand it right away. And I just tried my best to rack in my mind, what did he really mean by that? So I was thinking, because don't we have to think and use our minds for a volition to occur? So if we are making a volition to even get rid of that, that's also making karma, correct? Was what I was thinking. So I had to read further into other suttas that followed right after. And there was one that was titled in the karma section. I'm going to say karma I'm going to mix between karma and kamma, just because karma is the more common word that people are used to hearing in the States. Kamma is the Pali word, which I'm used to reading, seeing, and gam is the Lao word, Lao Thai pronunciation that I'm used to hearing in this temple. So I may mix between the three, so I apologize. So the chapter of Kamma had this section called The 7 Factors of Enlightenment, titled The 7 Factors of Enlightenment. And in this sutta, this section, it starts off very much the same as the prior sutta, which explains the 4 types of karma. But then he goes into that last one, and he says, the Buddha says, the kamma that destroys kamma is the enlightenment factors of mindfulness, sati, investigation of phenomena, tamavicaya, energy, virya, rapture and joy, piti, tranquility, pasati, concentration, samadhi, and equanimity, which is upekkha. So each of these factors, when attained, require the relinquishment of them. So as we get them, we go further into jhana, or meditative absorption. We keep going to get rid of it, even though it was nice and it didn't really have anything, and didn't have like a real action, no volition to do something else further. So for example, if I got joy from feeding a bird, and the bird was happy and was able to live off the food that I gave. So that was good karma. But I may be chasing after that joy, hoping to see that that bird is there. And if the bird's not there, I may be upset that it's not there. Or maybe the bird doesn't like the food that I'm trying to give, and so I may get upset, thinking like, why aren't you liking the food or the actions I'm trying to do? So that is why chasing after even the good will lead to bad karma, or even good karma. It will just keep leading to karma. But in this one here, when we are meditating and we're in jhana, one of the first things that come is joy, this rapture. But this rapture is different. This rapture gives us a pleasant feeling because we start to understand. We start to understand the 3 characteristics of tukkhaṃ, or dukkha, suffering; anicca, which is not is impermanence; and anatta, which is not self. As we start to understand this, there's a sense of joy, like, wow, the veil that's been covering over our eyes, which was supposed to be reality, has been shaken off. And we're starting to take it off and get to see what reality really is. So there's some joy in that. But even with that joy, we may chase after it in our meditation. So we start looking for that joy, and it may not come while we're meditating. And in that, we also have to shake that off. So another level of jhana when meditating is to prevent having that joy. Although even that's good, we prevent it. And so we try to aim for what we call equanimity, which is upekkha. And then they're not moved by either pain or stress, or not moved by that joy, which is even subtle. So how is it that these 7 factors of enlightenment is actually the so-called karma destroyer, the destroyer of karma? So as it turns out, in order to achieve the 7 factors of enlightenment, we have to master this mental cultivation. So mental cultivation, which includes the 3 parts of the Eightfold Path, the last 3 parts, which are 6, 7, and 8. Number 6 is right effort. Number 7 is right mindfulness. And number 8 is right concentration. So vayamo, sati, and samadhi. Yet this is very interesting because to master bhavana, it actually, to go into jhana, it actually requires us to have two things going for us. One is right sila. So we have to have ethics. Our morality must be completed to purify our actions, so we have an easier way to understand while meditating. And also we must have right view, which is samatiti, which is the first part of the Eightfold Path. And yet even further, this is opened up with dana. So sila, we hear a lot of people say in this temple, sila, which is moral ethics, righteous moral ethics. This is opened up with generosity, tan. We say tan. So dana, this generosity, allows us to understand why we don't kill, why we don't steal. It's the beginning of giving up anyway, renouncing something for the benefit of someone else. So, right view and right sila are two things that are needed for jhana to occur. So what is in right view? Right view being the first, right view actually allows us to have the basics of the Four Noble Truths. So this kind of rolls back around on itself. So here you have the Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths, which are two of the things that are very important that kind of coincide with each other. And the Four Noble Truths is to understand that there is suffering. Not I suffer, not you suffer, but there is suffering. And we have to understand where the suffering is coming from. This suffering comes from a desire to have attachments, to be attached to things. And then the third part of the Four Noble Truths, the third truth is that when we let go of these desires, these attachments, there is freedom, a sense of freedom. So this is where my bhikkhu name came in my head, thinking that maybe that's what it meant. Nekama. If you're nekama, you've renounced, you give up. But I thought about it, and it's not quite yet. And the last part of the Four Noble Truths is that the Buddha gave a systematic approach to achieving this freedom, letting go. Again, I mentioned the Eightfold Path. I mentioned 1, which is right view. I mentioned 6, 7, and 8, which was effort, mindfulness, and concentration. And the other ones in between, after right view, the first one, the second one is right attitude. The third one is right action. This is where sila comes in. Right speech is also part of sila. And the fifth one is right livelihood, or your work, kind of the job that you have. And all that kind of goes in line with having, cultivating sila. And when sila is done well, then after meditating, jhana can open up. So I guess I want to approach nekama. So what is nekama? Renunciation of worldly desires. It turns out that last year a Sri Lanka monk by the name of Ajahn Nanda, he stayed a vasa with us, Pansa, in 2022 into 2023, and he left in January. So he was a teacher, and he would try to teach me some Pali words, and also some Sinhalese words too, from Sri Lanka. And I asked him, when I came across the word nekama, what did it mean? And he said, oh, it meant to be a monk. And I was like, to be a monk? That's interesting, because the Lao in Thai word for going forth, becoming a monk, is bot. And I know that many Lao and Thai words come from Pali. So I was trying to see where the root word of Bodh came from. Couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. So this got me a little confused, since when I was looking at the dictionary of the translation of nekama, it definitely says renunciation. So as I pondered over many months, I had thought that the reason Ajananda linked renunciation with being a monk may just be because of the fact that it is a bit easier to master bhavana, or mental cultivation, when one leaves the householder life and goes forth into the noble homeless life. So, being recently ordained as a novice with 10 precepts, the household life is quite still fresh in my mind. I can relate quite easily with it still. So when I recall the household life, I realized and thought, wow, when I was a layperson, I barely had time to chant, even in the evening. Now I chant twice, sometimes 3 times in a day. I didn't have time to even meditate, and I would try to even put maybe 5 minutes in. Couldn't do it. Tried to do it when going to sleep. I found that it didn't really help, because I wasn't doing it right, in a way that I was just using it to go to sleep. And I didn't really need it, because I could fall asleep within 2 minutes of my head hitting the pillow. So that didn't help, because I would just go to sleep. So I wasn't understanding. There was no mindfulness in my meditation. So when we're in the layman life still, the whole household life, it's very difficult, because we find lots of distractions. Distractions of trying to please your significant other, distractions of trying to please family, trying to please friends, trying to please the job, and trying to please oneself with their name and reputation, status. So all these things took time away from trying to understand what the Buddha was saying. What was the Buddha talking about? And the Buddha did mention many times about letting go of the 5 khandhas, khandha, to be free. And if we could let those things go, then that's the renunciation. And when we renounce these things, this is the way to stop kamma from further becoming. So this going forth, the monastic life, it's not for everyone. And even in the Buddha's time, householders actually achieved at least one of the 4 enlightenment stages, the jhana stages, meditation stages. Sotapanna, which is a stream enterer. Sakatagami, which is the once returner. Anagami, which is a non-returner. And even arahants, which is in this very lifetime, one realizes the Dhamma, and they will no longer have any further births. So because of these stages of awakening, they are still available, being that the Dhamma is still intact, and there are sanghas that have arahants in this world. So we should strive for this freedom from attachments through the practice of dana, sila, bhavana, and panya. It all starts with dana, renouncing negative or positive feelings by giving up attachments to things that we can't take with us in our afterlife. We let our actions of generosity help others so that we get rewarded. And when we're rewarded, we are put in a place that's a little bit more comfortable. It doesn't end suffering completely. It just makes it more comfortable. And this comfortability doesn't last. That's suffering. Because there's the big letdown will happen. However, when we're comfortable, we are able to listen to the Dhamma and even practice bhavana, maybe in our homes. But if we can't do it in our homes, we can do it here at temples. So may this practice give you vimutti, or liberation, from the lies of samsara. So may you always be happy, may you always be well, and may you always find the eternal bliss in Nibbana. Sadhu. Buddhaṃ Dhammāṃ Saṅghāṃ Saranang Gacchāmi.